What if you did some trauma work and within days had several new clients show up for your business? It happened with today's guest, and if you think, well, thankfully, I haven't really had any trauma in my life. That's great, but it turns out essentially all of us have had trauma, whether we know it or not. That's not the focus of today's show, but it is a very interesting discussion that comes up. You'll definitely want to hear that. If you're currently an entrepreneur in the health space or you're employed in the health space and you want to start a business of your own, today's guest is going to be highly relevant for you because her entire business is helping people who work in a medical profession start their own businesses, whether that's going from an employer to running their own physical practice or an online business. And it could be at any point in the journey. It doesn't have to be just starting. She can step in at any point there and help grow that business. Suzy Wraines runs Starting a Business Simplified and hosts a podcast by the same name. By the way, that podcast has brought her many leads for her business, so you're going to want to hear about how she accomplished that. Also, we'll talk about a big benefit Suzy has had from podcasting that isn't just about audience numbers, okay? You don't want to be too focused on that because there are many more benefits. And also, we get into the importance of patience when it comes to both podcasting and entrepreneurship. Hey, Suzy, welcome in.
Thanks, Joel, for having me.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great conversation here based on some of the chat that we just had before getting started. We'll begin with the basics here. I'd like to have you share a brief history of your business. So it's Starting a Business Simplified. When and why did you start it? And I'd like to know as well, how did you end up helping medical professionals specifically start their own businesses?
When I started about 2.5 years ago, and I was more geared towards business planning. That was like the thing in my head that kept going around. I have a business background and worked in the medical field. I was a medic in the Army, spent a year in Iraq, came home. When I left the Army, I went into veterinary medicine. So still medical, but on the animal side, and realized that both of those things, I was doing my business work within the clinics I worked in. When I was in the Army, I was like designing things that were business focused to help with patient care, with how we were handling soldiers when we were overseas, like all these things that business intertwined with medical. And I thought, there's something here. So when I left veterinary medicine, I got certified in coaching and I was like, what do I want to do? And I thought, well, I love business. I love medical. And the medical people would lean on my business expertise when I was there. They were like asking me questions. How can we streamline these things? How can we track some of these things? How can we save some hours in administrative staff and things like that? And so I was like, I think that's a gap in the world. Medical people know medicine. They should. They don't necessarily understand business. And there's a lot of medical people like me who wanted to get started in their own practice, doing something different or continuing what they're doing, but doing it on their own. They've never asked for money, most of them. They haven't established what is their niche. Everybody comes to them. Medical people, it's like, just come to us and we'll take care of you. And so I found that that was a missing piece and I understood it because I was in it. I had a business background and I struggled when I got started. I was like, oh my gosh, I get it in corporate. I get how they do things, but they have a whole team of people and departments and all that stuff. But here I am, a solopreneur going, oh, wow, where do you start? And so I wrote a workbook. I gave the workbook out as a marketing test. I was like, I need feedback. Like, how is this going to work? And so the people that did the workbook, they're like, I love this. I need somebody to help walk me through it. And I was like, okay, there's what I need to do. And so from the workbook, I designed a coaching program and took off from there. And so now I do one-on-one coaching specifically for medical professionals who are leaving that want to start either their own practice or start something completely different that's service-based.
Okay, so it could be online as well, but it's not typically that. It could be just starting their own practice.
Yeah, it could be either.
Okay. Something I'm curious about too, you clearly found a demand for this niche, these people doing this, but the idea of a medical professional wanting to leave what they're currently doing and start a business, when you're working with them, are they, for example, burned out and really trying to change things up? Or is it just that they're fine, but they just have this interest in being their own boss? Like, what's their motivation there?
So the current clients I have right now, their motivation is they want to do things their own way. They're very, it's not that
we can all relate.
Yeah, it's not that they're burnt out on being a medical professional. They love being a medical professional. They want to get out of the system. They're like, I don't want somebody to tell me how I can practice. They stay within the legal licensing requirements depending on what they're doing. But at the same time, they want to do other things. So I have a nurse practitioner right now. She's like, I want to do some other stuff. I want to do some holistic work. I want to do some meditation. I want to do some yoga. I want to get my people to do kind of a combination. And she can't. So she's like, I'm just going to go do my own thing. And she can take her license with her and she can go and do all the beautiful things that she wants to do under her own personal, this is how I want to do it, without having the restraint of you're working for this organization and this is the rules that we follow and this is the structure. And she realized in the process, she was giving away her expertise to the organization.
Yeah, that's a big realization when you see that you're passionate about something, you have these skills and you really want to help people, but you're kind of being boxed in by an organization like that and maybe putting in extra effort, but doesn't really get you anything in return. So it's good to have that discovery. And I love that all about this industry, like the health and wellness space where people can go and they have all this other knowledge and skills and they can go and actually help people with it. Whereas before they may have been prevented from using that. So it's just great what we have access to these days. And the fact that you're then helping these people make that shift is great. So we've got a brief understanding of your business now. I'd like to just touch on the podcast that you've got as well, because it's been at least a couple of years you've been doing it, 150 episodes. I think you never missed a week. It's called Starting a Business Simplified as well. So tell us a little bit about that. Is it mostly solo episodes you're doing? Is it guests as well? Give us a rundown of the show.
Yeah, both. And thank you for having me on your podcast talking about podcasting. This is the first podcast that I've been a guest on that talks specifically about podcasting. So I'm like, oh yeah, I can see. And again, thank you for bringing my awareness to, I have not missed a week. I did not realize that. I'm on a path. Like, this is just what I do. When I started my podcast, it was because I'm a vocal descriptor type person. And I remember thinking, I want to do a blog. And I started to write and I went, this is not my medium. I do not like to sit and try to get my thought into what it is. And so I was like, I think I'm going to guest. I'm going to be a guest on podcast. That'll be great. So I went out into the world of the internet and I started searching and I'm like, I don't even know how to find what podcast I should be on. Where should I go? And I didn't want to do the research. So I said, I'm just going to do my own. So I just created it. And I was like, this really isn't that hard. And one of your episodes you shared about the video podcasting and I was listening and I'm like, that is so true. It's easier now. It's a lot easier now, even than it was 2 years ago. But it was really easy to just hit record. I was just telling people what I know. I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is how you can start a business. This is what you need. And that's how it was born. And then through that, I realized I could really make an impact here. I was just recording and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it every week. And I started watching YouTube videos. What do you do as a podcaster? What should you be doing? And how should you be doing it? And then this year, and it's the reason I listened to your episode, I was like, I got to listen to that one. I started video. So I did audio the whole first year and a half, just audio. I recorded video, but I just did audio to upload. And starting in January 2024, I watched a YouTube video and he said, if you want to elevate your podcast, do video. And I was like, I don't want to do video.
Right.
It was physically painful for me to hear that. That takes away the whole, I can be in my pajamas and I don't have to put makeup on and who cares? But yeah, starting in January, I committed to video. So every episode now, Spotify video and YouTube, they're all video out there. But to answer your question, I do guest. I have guests that come on the first year. I overwhelmed myself. Probably that's why I have 150 episodes. I just was like all in. I'm going to record and record and record. And I probably recorded 3 or 4 episodes a week with guests. I was totally overwhelmed. Didn't realize how much was going to go into it. So then I slowed down. But I was watching my analytics when it came to guest versus solo. And I was surprised. When I looked at my analytics by episode, I was like, more people listen to just me. Who knew? So I tapped into that this last part of the year, and I'm starting to do now a series. So I'll do 12 weeks of a topic. I did it for the last part of this year, and I'm going to do it for next year, 2025. And in between, I'll meet with guests. So people get to hear me every Tuesday for every week. And every once in a while, I'll have a guest pop in and I'll just drop those episodes as bonus episodes during the week.
That's a great point you brought up. A lot of people are discovering that now because, yes, at the end of the day, listeners are coming to hear your expertise and your authority. I mean, that's what grows your business. So I think let's call it a mistake if you're only doing interviews. Now, there's some strategies where that can work, but it's ideal at the least to have some solo mixed in. And it's just great to hear stats. I love hearing data. So the fact that you saw that, hey, the solo ones actually are doing better is really neat. And the guesting as well. I always like hearing this perspective because some people have said, you know what, I don't want to make a podcast. I just want a guest. And that's going to be my thing. But you started that way. And then you said, well, no, it's maybe easier to do a podcast. And then you settled on doing both, which they kind of go hand in hand. Like if you're doing one, you might as well do the other. Have you noticed with all the guesting too, that it's helped grow your show? If you could even make that connection, would you say there's been benefits?
I would say the benefit to the guests is connections that I've made. And I kind of wanted to touch on this for your listeners. Being a podcaster gives you the ability, okay, Joel, now you and I know each other. We know each other pretty well. Like I'm going to remember you and you're going to remember me, hopefully. And we're going to stay in connection in the world of, hey, this is Joel and what he does. And I now know what you do. I can share what you do. You can share what I do. So even just having a podcast where you make connections, that actually grew my business. So as I was asking people to be on my podcast, I was picking guests that complemented my brand with what I'm doing in my business so that my listeners were getting similar, but also I was meeting new people. And now I'm collaborating with 5 of them and have a whole product that I sell with those 5 people to help my clients and it helps their clients. So podcasting is also a way to get out there and get to know people. And if you do it in a way that benefits both sides, so everybody wins, the listener wins, you win, and the guest wins. It's just a big win-win. So I love doing it for that purpose.
It's great to point that out because, yes, if you get too obsessed with numbers and just want to see downloads, you're just missing a lot of the other benefits of podcasting. But it being a win for everyone is so important. We never want to go in and just try to be thinking, what can I take for myself or what can I give to what can I give to the audience is important. But when you put it as a win for everybody, so perhaps, yes, you are making connections. So that person's benefiting. You can give the guest value. They give you value. The audience gets value. That's really where we want to be thinking with our show. One other thing too, I don't know if you have the data on this, but I'm obviously very curious, liking to know numbers. You started doing the video. Have you seen any additional downloads or have you seen anything from that yet? I know things take time, but what have you seen from that so far?
Yeah, I would say my YouTube channel actually has grown in subscribers significantly. Of course, I went back and uploaded all my audio episodes when I first started my YouTube channel. It has increased my subscribers. So that has increased on YouTube. I'm not really sure with Spotify as far as how video goes with that, but I have noticed, and this could be, again, I like to educate people. I've been doing my podcast for over 2 years. I have over 150 episodes. I'm getting clients from it now directly. I have 2 clients who reached out to me and are like, I've been listening to your podcast for the last few months. Absolutely love you. How do I work with you? It does happen that way, not overnight. I like to tell people it's not going to happen when you put your first episode out. But I do believe that video has helped with that because it is a face. People are seeing me. They can see who I am and what I'm all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And trust is more important than ever. And I think video adds that extra component, more trustworthiness and quicker. And I think we're going to need that even more moving into the future as we get more and more AI and fake content. It's going to be more important to see a person. So that's great. There's a few things you mentioned there I want to get to after as well, like building trust. But for now, let's touch a bit more on the business. Let's just get a bit more of an idea of what specifically you do and how you deliver it. So we know who your clients are overall, what you help with, but to give you some context, like, are you selling a course? Are you doing one-on-one coaching, group coaching? Like, what is it that you're offering here?
Yeah, so I offer one-on-one coaching only on purpose because when you're getting started, and I want to emphasize that I do work with people who are getting started or if they're within like the first 3 to 4 years of their business and they're shifting, they're wanting to make some big changes, because I do foundational work. So we're really going to start with, what is it you're selling? How much are you selling it for? Who are you selling it to? All the things that a marketing person would ask you. Basically, we're going to get that established. What's your pricing? We're going to work that out. I come from a budgeting and forecasting background for sales teams over millions of dollars, big corporations. And so that's where I hone in and I go, okay, you got to start with the very first one. What is that product? So for me, I'm a service-based business and I do one-on-one coaching and I do it 90 days at a time. You can do 90 days, you can do 6 months, or it goes into the year. I do the 90-day blocks because it helps people that are not really sure what direction I'm going in, but I do know I want to move into being an entrepreneur. So let's spend 90 days together and let's figure that out. So it's really customized to whoever's working with me and what step they're at. If they're a business that's been around for a couple of years and they're like, I want to shift into this whole other thing, we can spend 90 days together and figure out what that thing is. And then they can commit if they want to do a whole year. And my collaborations, I have a service that I provide that's specifically with these other collaborators. So it gives people a copywriter and a small business legal person and a document process person who helps them with processes and procedures and a planner that helps them with their personal holistic. Am I eating healthy? Am I sleeping enough? All the things that an entrepreneur needs to have that I don't provide. I don't do that work. So when we get started as a business owner, so many times we're like, okay, I got to make content. Okay, what do I write about? Well, I'm going to help them to decide what the service is. Who are you talking to? How much does it cost? But I'm not going to tell you how to write it because I'm not a copywriter. So there's so many of these components that we don't realize until we jump in as a new business owner and we go, oh, if I have a website, I'm going to have to tell them what to put on the website. They're going to design it, but I have to tell them the words. What words do you want to say on your website? What's your service? What do you provide? Who are you talking to? So all those things. So that's what I do for somebody if they wanted to work with me.
Okay. I like that offering a lot. That I was curious what that collaboration was. If anyone's ever gone through this process of trying to do anything and find service providers, it can be so challenging. So to find someone like you who's very qualified to help with what you do, but then say, hey, go find a copywriter now. And that can be, another roadblock where they can't find anyone and it's frustrating for everyone. So that relief where you just come and say, here's everything you need. And I've already vetted these people. They're going to get it done. That's just a huge help to someone in that situation. So I'd like to emphasize how great of an idea that was. And you said mainly those people you connected with through your podcast. Is that generally it or?
Yeah, every single one of them have been a guest on my podcast, some of them twice. I have 2 authors that the small business attorney, she's written 2 books, and the copywriter, she's been a co-author on a book. And they're all people that I've worked with. So I've experienced their service and my business is growing and I'm doing all the things. So I don't ever recommend something that I would not do myself. I do have other copywriters that I've had on the podcast and I refer website designers, copywriters, people that I know, people that have been on my podcast. Usually they have been on my podcast because I've gotten to know them so well and I trust them. So I'm not going to recommend somebody that I just Googled.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's great to have those referrals and they're so valuable to all of us to be able to give business in both directions is great. So I love to hear that. And the fact that the podcast had a role to play in there as well. We've got an understanding of the business, the podcast. I'd like to chat about marketing a bit because this is of huge importance to all of us entrepreneurs is getting those new leads, getting new people in to work with great qualified people that we'll get along with and will be good clients. So you mentioned that the podcast has done that for you to some extent. Is there anything else that's your primary source of leads or what else has worked for you? Like, let's hear a bit about that, like where your business is coming from aside from the podcast.
Yeah, I started like, let's do everything. Let's be on all social media and let's do everything at once. And I realized really fast that that's really hard. Yes, you can hire a social media person to do it all for you. But again, I'm doing it myself. We're going to start at the foundation. So what I did is I asked myself, where are my people? I'm working with medical professionals who want to start their own thing. They're most likely going to be on LinkedIn. I went over there. I hired a LinkedIn coach. Again, I'm going to say, you're going to have to get help. I highly, highly believe in hiring people to help you do the things you can't do or help you learn the things that you don't know. So I hired a LinkedIn coach in the first year of my business, and I started establishing myself over there. That was huge. That gave me the authority. So it helped people to see, oh, she really is legit. When I started my podcast went on LinkedIn. This is what I do. If you want to know more about me, go listen to the podcast. And I started driving people to the podcast. So I would get into conversations. I would connect with people. I would find people that were in medical, and then I'd start my list of connections and just start following them, answering questions, doing things like that, and asking them if they are interested in doing something different, starting a business, go listen to the podcast. That's how they're going to know if they even like me. Because if they don't like me, then they're not going to work with me. And I want to know if I like them. So LinkedIn was a great place for me to see their profile. I read about them a little bit. They're putting it out there, then it's okay to read it. So it gave me an opportunity to be like, I'm not just going to take anybody off the street that wants to work with me because it might not be a good fit for me either. And I think that's a two-way street. So I did that in the beginning for the first year. And I think that's really what helped me get clients from the podcast. The first client I got from my podcast, she's not even on social media. She's like,
that sounds like a dream.
I know. And I really, truly believe I manifested that because I was like, I got to get people from my podcast. I've done over 150 episodes. What is the deal? And then boom, she came through my website. She's like, I've been listening to your podcast and I just wanted to reach out and talk to you and work with you. And it happened like that because she'd been listening to the podcast. So again, building that trust. When somebody wants to connect with me or they reach out to me or whatever, I immediately go and look for what they have out in the world. Do you have a podcast? Do you have a YouTube channel? I mean, I looked all over the place for you, Joel, and it's great. You have amazing stuff out there. And it was great to watch it, read it, and know who you are. And that's what I tell my clients. Be where you want to be and where your people are actually going to look for you.
Yeah, you don't have a whole lot of a choice these days, although it seems like some people have figured it out. But yeah, social media is definitely part of it. I love what you said there too about sort of screening people. I've actually had a few clients say to me that it's very rare, but occasionally they'll get someone that comes in as a prospective client who has never heard of their podcast, never listened to it. And they will actually say like, listen, before we do anything else, you have to go listen to it because you don't even know who I am if you haven't heard it. And it's a great tool for that. And it seems like very commonly these days, someone like yourself with that type of podcast, most people who do find you have heard it in some way.
It's also a really good way to help people. So we talk about in marketing how we can be of service. So how can I give you value? And I'm in communities. I have communities that I joined for myself personally. And people always ask, what do you do? And tell them what you do. And I have a podcast. And then the other thing is, when you're in those conversations and they're asking me a business question and I'm like, I want to answer this question. Hey, I did an episode on that. My podcast is, here's the episode. Here's the link. Boop, I'm going to send you right over there. And you can listen to me. And I don't do long episodes. So guest ones, I do about 30 minutes, but my episodes are usually 10 to 20 minutes. I just keep them short and simple.
Great. I'm curious too. I know I heard in one of your episodes that you specifically gave an example that you're not going to start a business and have big success in 3 or 6 months. Like it does take time. You talked about your LinkedIn coach and taking at least a year there to get some results. So yeah, I'm curious, how long did it feel for you? Because this is a very frustrating part for a lot of new entrepreneurs is just putting stuff out there and feeling like no one's listening to this. And I've been doing it for maybe 6 months and I must be doing something wrong, or I might as well just give up. Do you have to give pep talks to your clients, or, what's a realistic timeline and expectation when it comes to starting from almost scratch with something like this?
Yeah. So there was a healing process that had to happen for me. I had some blocks, limiting beliefs, things that were coming up that were actually energetically keeping clients from coming. So it is a thing. And I know that there's some people that are like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So I used the bookkeeper as an example. I was doing my own bookkeeping, totally comfortable doing that, but I wanted more clients. And so I was like doing my podcast and doing my out on social media and I'm doing the thing. And I'm like, what the heck? Like what? Why is nobody responding? I don't get this. Well, energetically, because I was doing my own bookkeeping, in my subconscious, I was like, if I get more clients, more bookkeeping. Oh, so as I got a little bit of traction, got a couple of clients on board and didn't even need a bookkeeper yet. I hired a bookkeeper. As soon as I hired a bookkeeper and I released that and I was like, oop, someone else is taking care of it. I don't even care anymore. I got like 3 or 4 more clients and my business started to, it like opened up because energetically I was actually suppressing energetically. Don't come because I have to do bookkeeping. It is an energy thing. And when I let go of that and I was like, I don't have to track that anymore. I don't have to manage it. I don't have to do the thing. All the work that I had been doing, showing up, doing the podcast, consistency. I have an episode, time and consistency. Just keep doing the thing, even if you don't feel like it's doing anything. Because what will happen is you'll shift energetically, whatever that is that you're having to move past, and the floodgates open. Because you've been doing the thing, and now all of a sudden the energy's there, and people are like, oh, there's Suzy. I need to work with her. They weren't seeing it because I was blocking it.
Wow. Yeah. And that's a big part of the work that you do with your clients, right? Is healing trauma. So that gave us some insight into how that could affect starting or running a business. Curious too, when you're working with people like that, how do you identify those things? Do you just do work to just release trauma in general, or do you have to find out specifically what it is? I don't know enough about it to even ask a proper question, but I think you get the idea of what I'm asking.
Yeah. So I actually am a trauma energetics coach. So I went through a program to learn about all of this. And as I was doing it for myself, because I knew I had blocks. So I did it for myself, ended up realizing that this happens for entrepreneurs. It happens for everybody all the time, but I made the connection between the two. So if you're procrastinating, you have a trauma block. It's a defensive pattern. Physiologically, we have all these things going on that were programmed when we were kids because we were learning and developing. And I always use the example, my older brother made fun of me when I would cry. And so I would not cry because I had this defense. I was like, oh, if I cry, he's going to make fun of me. Well, growing up, I kept that I'm going to block this one thing and not allow emotion. And these different things come up when we're entrepreneurs. So are you procrastinating? It's a pattern. I had a fear of speaking up. I'm a podcaster. How the heck can I have a fear of speaking? I would not be talking to you this openly on your I may have not have even been a guest on your podcast a year ago because I had a fear of speaking up. I would talk, but you know the difference between blah, 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 blah. We're going to give you information. And here's a heartfelt thing that I want to tell you today. 2 totally different things. So when you're working out of a defense, you're actually blocking the things that you really want. And that's the work that I really embraced. And I was like, this is real. It happened to me. It's happening to everybody. So I want to help my clients with this. So when they come to me and they say, I don't like numbers. I don't like looking at my numbers. There's an underlying thing there. We're going to ask, okay, what does your nervous system do when you look at numbers? And we can go through then in a process that I've learned how to do this coaching to where they realize numbers is tied to something they were made fun of on the school playground. And it caused them to have this thing when they were in math class. One of the kids, threw their book on it doesn't matter what it is. It's just a thing. So I've had so many breakthroughs with my clients. And as soon as they realize and they're like, oh, I'm not 5, I'm 35. I get to make a choice. I don't have to feel this way. Okay, I'm good. And then all of a sudden stuff changes.
It's very interesting. I love hearing about these types of things. And, I made a joke about my own ignorance about it. Like I obviously have heard what you're talking about, but I don't know that much about it. But then there's plenty of us out there who may have these blocks. And our first thought isn't, you know what, I have trauma. I need to go find a coach to help me through. Like we don't even know that that's a possibility. You're just, like you said, you hear in your clients that they may be stuck or they're having a certain issue. And only because you have that background, you can say, here's what's wrong and let's fix it. But many people wouldn't even know that that's a possibility. And then they're just stuck. So I love that we're even talking about this because then it can make more people aware. But is that a common thing where people don't even know that this is going on or to even go seek help?
It is. I like to tell people if you were born, you have trauma. Because we were all nice and warm in a beautiful, safe space. And then all of a sudden we're in this freezing cold room with bright, shining lights and people are all like, oh, in our face. That's traumatizing to a newborn baby. The nervous system is like, whoa, that's why they're screaming. Yeah, so it's a thing. But I think so many times I was really nervous about using the word trauma all the time because I didn't want to isolate it to, oh, I was in a car accident, or like me, I was in Iraq. Not everybody's has that. I've talked to so many clients and people in entrepreneurship, and they're like, I've never had trauma. And I'm like, we all have. There's like no way. It can be anything. Trauma, to me, this is my perception from all the studies I've done and all the work that I've done, the people I've seen. When you are 0 to 7 years old and you're developing, your perception creates the trauma. So it's not somebody doing something to you. It's how you perceive it because you're learning. So it makes sense that when I was little and my brother would make fun of me, I perceived that as a dangerous event because it was uncomfortable. It made my nervous system kind of go, ooh, I don't like that feeling. So I took that as traumatizing. I didn't mentally grow up in the world and go, I was traumatized by my brother when I was a kid. I didn't even notice. Had no idea until my trauma coach was like, what's really going on here, Suzy? And going through that process.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting too, because what I was saying is people wouldn't even be aware that this could be a possibility. But like you pointed out, even if you told them, hey, you need help with this trauma, many people would say, no, I don't. It wasn't in any big trauma in my life, but we basically all were. So that's very interesting. I didn't mean to get too deep into that here, but it's definitely interesting to hear about your work. I'm intrigued. We'll have to talk more about that. A couple more things to wrap up. So one thing I like to make note of on these episodes is we can often think that guests we're talking to, we hear about your great business, the great thing you built, your great life, but that can perhaps be discouraging to someone who's starting out or struggling in business to hear everyone else is doing well, but me. But I like to point out that's not the case. So I always like to ask, what's a current challenge or at least a high priority that's on your mind right now for your business moving forward that you're thinking about?
I love this question because it's one of the things that actually is what's going to grow your business. So for those of you listening that are like, it's never going to happen. You guys are amazing, but it's not going to happen for me. I thought that at least once a week when I first started. It's gotten less, but it's still there. And I just did an interview with a CEO founder, been in her business for over 5 years. And she shared on the podcast, self-doubt is there. Billion-dollar corporations have sales meetings where they open up a report and they say, how is our sales? And if the numbers are down, everybody in that room is nervous and they have billions of dollars. So it doesn't matter if you have $5, one client, or 1,000 and hundreds of thousands of clients. We have to remember the universal law of rhythm says there's going to be ups and downs. We're going to have downtimes. So as an entrepreneur, if you can just remind yourself in those moments when you go, they're doing it more than I'm doing it, look behind you at the person who's behind you, who was where you used to be. And now you're here, and always be looking at the people ahead of you as inspiration, not discouragement. It's inspiring. It's inspiring to see other people succeeding. And when you look behind you and you go, ooh, I can help somebody because I was where they were yesterday. And it's as much as we only have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the person behind us to be able to help them. So what I'm struggling with right now is being a guest on a podcast. And I'm a guest on a podcast. Since I started my podcast, I did not put myself out there and go, ooh, I need to be a guest. I was like, I'm doing my thing, I'm doing it every week. And there was this little nudge, Suzy, you really need to be a guest. And my nervous system went, no, that is uncomfortable. Discomfort is growth. So I'm now putting myself out there. I said yes to coming onto this podcast. And I have other podcasts that I'm now actively looking to be a guest on in my discomfort. So I am going to say to your listeners, no matter what stage you are in your business, brand new, just thinking about it, just getting started, 5 years in, it doesn't matter. We're always going to be uncomfortable because we're always growing and expanding. If you're comfortable, you're probably not growing. Your business probably isn't growing. So get uncomfortable. That's how you do it.
You brought up some great things in that in your last couple of comments, but I couldn't say it any better. So I'm not going to add anything. You're more articulate than I am at it. So I think that was a great note to end on, Suzy. So it's startingabusinesssimplified.com. We'll link your social media and your podcast and all that in the show notes. But thank you so much. This was so insightful. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Joel. I had fun.
Join us again next time on Profits Through Podcasting for more insights on how to turn your health-focused podcast into a lead and revenue generation machine for your business. Are you ready to let a team of professionals handle your entire podcast production workflow? East Coast Studio can help you elevate your podcast to the higher quality standards required for credibility in the health and wellness space. Plus, give you the guidance and support needed to podcast consistently, growing your impact and your sales. Visit eastcoaststudio.com to learn more.